Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another one of my videos. I am ScreenSceneGuru, and today I'll be discussing the Taylor Sheridan 1923 Season 2. I just wrapped watching the show, so I'm going to give you my thoughts on the series. So starting off, we've got Episode 1, titled The Killing Season. The winter brings new challenges for the Duttons. Spencer and Alexandra set off on separate journeys, so I thought this was a very interesting start to the beginning of the series. We pick up immediately after Season 1 left off, and Spencer, of course, trying to get back home to the ranch, and Alexandra is following him on her own separate journey that has its own perils. I thought this was a very fascinating story. A lot of people are giving their opinions on what they thought of the realness of how the struggle would be, traveling around the world in the 1920s. Going on to Episode 2, we've got The Rapist is Winter. So very interesting, controversial titles for these episodes, guys. I think this might hurt Taylor Sheridan when it comes to the awards for the television series, because a lot of this is graphic material and violent. Going into Episode 2, things are contentious at the courthouse. Spencer stays in Galveston longer than he desires. Mother Nature makes her presence known. So this is the infamous attack with the wolves. The wolves not only attacking one of the lead actresses up at the homestead, but also the nurse, killing the nurse. So very violent. Then we got Episode 3, Wrapped Thee in Terror. Alexandra runs into trouble while traveling alone, making enemies along the way. Father, Reverend, and the Marshal Kent close in on Tiona, so they are still hunting her from the events of Season 1. I thought that was very interesting, too, to follow up on their story of them, going across the Indian nations, harassing them, looking for this Indian girl. Going on into Episode 4, we've got Journey the Rivers of Iron. Whitfield gathers support for his new business venture. Spencer has a run-in with the sheriff of Fort Worth. So I thought this was a very interesting episode as well. There's a lot of, the story starts to pick up and then it kind of slows down with him being stuck, having to do jobs along his way, getting back home to Montana. He has to smuggle booze for a short time. And a lot of people were wondering, what is this story, Taylor Sheridan usually has a really good writing staff, 3 to 4 people that help him create a vision. And this kind of felt like maybe he did it all on his own. Not that he can't do work on his own, but I thought it was a very interesting creative choice that they made for this season. Going on to Episode 5, we've got Only Gunshots to Guide Us. The search for Tiona continues. Alexander and Spencer find their footing on 2 different trains. So we see that Alexandra is working a train trying to get to Bozeman as a lady stewardess. And we see eventually Spencer is picked up by a law woman and is brought in for questioning. He has to make a call on the telephone to confirm he's not a criminal. And then they eventually get him a ticket, boarded passage to Montana. But in that whole event, we see Spencer is, she loses all her money. She eventually gets assaulted by someone on the train, which then leads to her being helped by this lovely couple from England. But unfortunately, they run out of gas on their way to their log cabin, and they freeze to death, which I thought was a very left turn for the story. And we see she goes through life critical damage with the hypothermia and the losing of her hands and feet. So a lot of people were like, whoa, what is going on with this story? I liked it, though. I liked the way that they met at the end. Going on to, let's see, Episode 6 right here, Mountains, Teeth of Monsters. So the Mountains, Teeth of Monsters. The Duttons receive good news. Alexandra catches a lucky break during her journey. Tiona reunites with a face from her past. So very interesting too. We see the full conclusion of Tiona's story. where the priest guns down the lawmen, which I thought that was a very interesting turn for them to take in the show. But we see that the priest is mad with his religious beliefs. He then comes across, or should I say, the gunman came across the boy traveling with Tiona, gunned him down, and then the priest gunned down Tiona's father at the night, and then Tiona was left to defend herself by taking out the priest, and then the law woman and the other authorities ended up taking her to court. They threw out the case, so she was free to go. They gave her advice on going to California, which is why we see in the modern day series, Rainwater explains he didn't realize he was a true indigenous man until he was in his 20s, 30s. He thought he was Spanish most of his life. So that kind of fills in that gap for the Yellowstone timeline. I really liked these last two episodes, guys. Episode 7, A Dream and a Memory. Jacob and his crew eagerly await Spencer's return at the train station. Tiona has a fateful run-in. Alexandra braves the cold. So yeah, this whole finale, if you guys watched it, I think it gives a really good story to Spencer. It fills in the gaps for his arc, and I think this is a really good push for Taylor Sheridan to try to get him a movie deal, a movie star role, because I'm hearing news about Warner Brothers wanting to buy a project from Taylor Sheridan away from Paramount to have him over at Warner Brothers, which is one step closer to having Brandon Sklenar as our new Batman, perhaps. Given the way they ended the show with him standing alone, taking out at least a dozen guys in new suave coats, I think they were kind of positioning him to take up a new movie mantle. So we'll see if that comes into play. I really liked Harrison Ford, Helen Mirren in this season. They're always a great add to cast. Going into a couple of comic book news, guys. I did read some comics this week just to get caught up on some things. Starting off with the New Avengers, guys. This was a pretty good read. See if you guys can capture that. Got a nice, interesting group of characters on the cover. I'll see if I can find a name for it. It's New Avengers number 7. If that gives you guys any kind of reference, with Luke Cage, Spider-Man, The Thing, Wolverine. I believe that's Yelena down here. And then we also got Captain Marvel. So really good read, guys. This was after, of course, one of their big battles. They show a decrepit Avengers mansion, which kind of funnily enough looks kind of like the Sanctum in Doctor Strange. This is a new Avengers team being paid for by Steve Rogers, but of course we see that Luke Cage has a bit of a problem with accepting checks from other heroes. He wants to be, an independent contractor, if you will. So we see them breaking a bit of bread around the family table, even though the house is wrecked. They kind of confirm that Doctor Strange is a member of theirs, one of their new Avengers. I like this too. They mention this lady assistant. Spider-Man has a big problem with her because, of course, she worked for Oscorp and Green Goblin, who posed as the Iron Patriot for a little bit on the Thunderbolts as well. So that was interesting to see. We see a little bit of Jessica Jones yelling at Luke Cage about, you shouldn't be in control of who gets paid and who doesn't for doing superhero work. It's kind of a nod to their superheroes for hire time for Luke Cage and Iron Fist. Very interesting to see Wolverine on the team of the New Avengers, because we've seen him flip-flop back and forth between Avengers and the X-Men. We see Wong returns, so that's cool. It gets Doctor Strange up and at it, because Wong returns to the mansion to hopefully fix it up. And then we got some really cool little behind the scenes cliff notes. Avengers Assembled, just like the origins of how the comic book was made. I thought that was really cool and fascinating. A couple of more back here. They've got let's see. Yeah, so the wedding of Hank Pym and Yellow Jacket showed up, and obviously caused a big stir. But Hank Pym and the Wasps getting married, that was a comic cover they talked about. The designs of coming up with ideas. Another one was the introduction of Goliath, which I thought was really cool. Pretty nice cover art. So yeah, that was New Avengers number 7 that I've read, and I thought that was a really good read. They come with a little bit of comic book history as well in the back pages. So it's always nice to go through the whole book. Going on from there, I know we're really excited, guys, about the Predator Killer of Killers anthology film coming out from Hulu on June 6th. So in anticipation of that, I went through my collection and I finally found a Predator comic, Predator Cold War, which is very exciting. Something from the 80s, 90s. Very interesting paper with this. Thick paper. Very nice designed. Showing off the Siberian winter tundra. A ship arriving with a new Predator alien. We see, starting off in the Soviet Union, the Russians. They've got an oil rill that's picked up a lot of radioactivity, so I thought that was fascinating as well. They discuss, someone's been slaughtered, and a team of platoon is sent out to investigate. They come across his body decapitated, and then I thought a very interesting line right here. One of the soldiers describes the heat. Not being able to see the creature, but being able to feel the heat coming off of it. And then, of course, the creature repeats the line, the heat. So very fascinating stuff there. Really cool art design. And then, let's see. The Predator, of course, makes easy work of the platoon soldiers in Russia, going after their DNA, as we learned from Shane Black's The Predator, even though that wasn't that very good of a movie. We did learn, in fact, they do come to different planets to harvest DNA. They discuss one being in a laboratory, being like under surgery, and people looking at it. So that was very fascinating as well. Going over some more of it, we see doctors being interrogated, some soldiers freaking out about past trauma. There's a bit of violence towards women, so I don't want to kind of show off that too much, because it was in the 90s, it was a different time. But I will show you right towards the end. They end up recruiting this soldier, drugging him, putting him on a plane, telling him, you have a mission to accomplish, and that mission, of course, is to go to Russia and figure out what the nuclear signal means. And then, of course, we see the last page leaving with, they're coming, of course. Large amount of predators headed towards the oil refinery in Russia. I thought that was very fascinating. I am definitely going to look for some more Predator comics, probably at my local comic book shop, before maybe Killer of Killers comes out, or maybe towards November when we get Predator Badlands with Ella Fanning. That might be cool to see. Yeah, we'll definitely have to check it out. I do want to show off real quick. I got one of my magazines framed recently. Check that out. I don't know how well you can see it in the light, but pretty cool. There's a lot of glare, but I'm going to hang that up on my wall. A nice Vanity Fair poster, which is cool. I got another one actually that I need to get a frame for. I don't have a frame for this, the Phantom Menace 25th anniversary, but I picked this up this year when the Phantom Menace was replayed in theaters for April, and it's just chock block full of awesome artwork, guys. So I highly recommend you guys picking one of these out, and they're at the local magazine shop. I like to collect them because I'm a die-hard fan of Star Wars, but I need to get a frame for this one. Let's see if we got any more cool iconic photos, stuff like that. Where you get to read about the not only the original trilogy, but how George Lucas worked on the prequels as well, because he really had a lot of fondness for, oh my gosh, the books as well, the Timothy Zahn books after, of course, the events of Return of the Jedi. I'm currently reading Dark Force Rising, so that's really cool. They mention Heir to the Empire and Dark Empire trilogy. Just flipping through real quick to see if there's any more imagery I want to show you guys. Oh wow, really young Natalie Portman next to a young Liam Neeson as well. It's really cool. At the premiere, that was premiere set photos of the Phantom Menace, which is surprising. Jar Jar, bit of Jar Jar. Oh yes, of course, Ian McGregor talking Obi-Wan and how he's getting close. He's getting up there in age to be rivaling Allen Guinness. So they're actually talking about maybe doing an Obi-Wan season 2. Would be actually something really fun to see. Let's see. Council. Oh, got some nice little art depiction right there. That's pretty fun. But I think that's pretty much it for the art. Oh, there's one more. The tech. Of course. Gotta show off the tech. That's a really cool art style. Lightsaber duels. Yes, of course, the droids. And that was always an iconic battle at the end of Phantom Menace. The electric ball fight scene was awesome. That's pretty much it. But it was still pretty cool. And the things to come, of course. Yes, they discuss other projects with so many people. We've seen a lot of these, but Skeleton Crew had yet come out, and they discussed Andor Season 2, Untitled, Dave Filoni project, The Acolyte, of course, this was before it came out, James Mangold Untitled project, and Taika Waititi's Untitled project, and the Mandalorian and Grogu movie. So really exciting stuff. We're not exactly sure where they're going in Star Wars after the events, and/or Season 2, which is back. But they have made a Star Wars Tales of the Underworld already that I haven't caught up yet with, 6 episodes, so I'm definitely going to check that out. Going into a bit of industry news real quick, guys. Let's see what I have pulled up for notes. Let's see. So movie rivals, we've got F1 is going up against Megan 2.0, so that's very interesting to hear. I don't think that's going to be much of a big rival season movie going in the summer, because right now we've got Lilo and Stitch going up against Mission Impossible 8, and it seems like Lilo and Stitch is just dominating the field right now. We see Weapons is going up against Freakier Friday as well. I don't know if that's going to be much of a big time double splash. And of course, Avatar and SpongeBob are neck and neck as well. So that's very interesting to hear. We've heard Scoopers recently have speculated about Hulk, Bruce Banner being in Spider-Man 4, Brand New Day. So that's very interesting to hear. We've yet to hear why exactly they've pushed Avengers Doomsday. We know that it's being pushed now from May to December of 2026. And a lot of people think that it's the holiday season. That's the next time that the box office is going to recoup a lot of money. So push it to December, like they've done with Star Wars, other things like Avatar. And a lot of people said the scripts aren't done yet, indeed. They still need a lot of casting to be signed, deals, pens to paper. We have heard rumor that Ghost Rider might show up in Avengers Doomsday, and I have quite a bit of Ghost Rider comics, so let me know down below in the comments if you guys want me to start reading some Ghost Rider comics. But that'll do it for this coverage of the 1923. We got a little bit off topic there with a few segments, but I really enjoyed the show. What did you guys think of season 2? Have you guys binged it all? Have you not caught up? This is on Paramount Plus, so I highly recommend you guys watching it on there. I do believe season 2 is going to come out on physical media, which is going to have the behind the scenes bonus features, which I'm really excited to see. So I'll probably check that out. But one more thing before I leave, I always encourage people to check out physical media and be always on the lookout for things they don't have. I know disc players and things like that are becoming scarce and far and few between. A lot of companies are discontinuing their models, but I was recently out on the town and I picked out something that I don't have. I believe I've bought the first one before, but the second one I think I've only bought digitally, so I'm trying to get away from that. I've got the Conjuringuniverse 7-film collection, so really interesting set right here. And this includes the Conjuring, the first Annabelle, Conjuring 2, Annabelle Creation, The Nun, Annabelle Comes Home, and Conjuring The Devil Made Me Do It. So very interesting set right here with the 7 films. It does not include The Nun Part 2, which I think is just a bit too new to be in the collection, but it's very interesting. Unfortunately, they did not do the Crooked Man series like they promised, or the Conjuring series from HBO Max. It looks like parts of that is going to be incorporated into the new Conjuring Last Rites that is coming out in September of this year, so I'm very excited to get to see that. But let me know what you guys' thoughts are on the movie news. Did you guys enjoy Yellowstone? What all is happening in your neck of woods? Until my next video, I want to say ciao and have a good one. You can follow me on Instagram, Threads, and TikTok at ScreenScreneGuru if you like. But until next time, bye bye.